The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Tuesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Practice rounds ongoing here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We played paper, rock, scissors. Connor, unfortunately, went with the rock. I think Elijah said, I'm going paper. I did scissors. So I guess I should be back in studio is how the math works. But, hey, we're out here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. Awesome event every year here at the club here at Indian Creek. It is just a phenomenal course. Maybe some of you have played it. Maybe some of you have screamed off the 17th green when that what looked like an incredible shot that was fading found the water. We're in front of the water. There are boat rides that are going to be happening later on. So we invite you out. You can log on Pinnacle Bank Championship, find out info that way, and come be a part of this incredible event. Some of the who's who of the PGA. The last just short few years ago, Will Zalatoris comes to mind, Scheffler. I mean, those are some greats right now on tour, and they did well here in Omaha, so you are invited out for the Pinnacle Bank Championship. We're going to squeeze in some golf the rest of this week for sure. We love golf and lots of Nebraska football since camp is continuing. Numbers to get in today at 489-1240, 489-1240, or can email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com. Also, ways to get in touch. The StreamYard, we're streaming the show live. Love doing this on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel or the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow as well. So plenty of updates happening from the practice sessions for Nebraska. Of course, the Hard Knocks version of Nebraska football, A Look In, Episode 1. We'll dive into that. Have you ever just lost it on a golf course?
Like 2 days ago.
Okay.
Well, not that bad.
Like you didn't, you found your way into the sand and proceeded to beat the sand versus going George Washington on a cherry tree.
Well, no, it's a funny story because I went golfing with Mitch, who listens to our show regularly, so I hope he hears this story. We show up to the golf course on Saturday morning, and he lost it, apparently, his last golf outing worse than I ever did, because we show up and he doesn't have a 4-iron with him.
What happened to the 4? It's sleeping with the fishes.
No, the entire head of the iron was broken off because he tried to hit one from the fairway with the 4-iron, and did not go well for him, and he hit it into, I believe he said, a tree, and the head of the 4-iron went flying off, and he had to play the rest of the day without a 4-iron. So I've never lost it that bad. If I was playing this course here today, I'm looking, the 18th tee box I think is over that hill, and considering this water hazard here is 50 yards directly to the right of that tee box, I think the water would be in play for me, and that's where I'd lose it. If I hit it into the water on 17 from 18, which with how my golf game goes, you never know.
Connor, any confessional moments for you on a golf course before we dive into Coach Rhule?
Never broken a club, that's for sure. But I mean, the club has seen the fair share of probably getting tossed into the green or some points. So my golf game is taking a pretty big hit, though. I don't go as regularly, so I need to start doing that more, and that's probably why. And unfortunately, the golf clubs are sometimes the victim of that. But I feel like you could say that for a lot of people. So,
and whenever I'm angry on a golf course, I don't end up being outwardly angry. I end up doing my best Donnie Raiola impression. I kind of sit there with an angry look on my face. Whenever people talk to me, I give 1 or 2 word answers back. That's what it is for me. And
it's short and sweet.
I thought about that, doing a Donnie Raiola impression for this entire show. You wouldn't hear me the entire show, but I decided that wouldn't make for good radio.
That's all right. This course is a special place in my heart. Last time I got to play golf with my dad was here. We were were here at the Pro-Am, and hold on a minute. That's an absolute lie. It was not a Pro-Am. It was, I think, a media tour. Better dial that back. Like, who picked you? How did you get here?
It was an am-am.
It was, yeah. But, no, I got to play golf with my dad here, and in true Steve Schmidt fashion, you're making the group lag behind because you're on shot 3, 4, 5, and 12 in the sand, and you get that look from your father, and he just kind of, it's that stare. Like, come on, man, hurry up. I'm embarrassed of you.
I thought I raised you better.
I'm embarrassed for you. Get it going. And then he'd have this kind of grimace, and he'd shake his head slowly. Scott chimes in. I witnessed a buddy throw his putter across Highway 30. It banged off a boxcar. It was epic.
It was epic.
I did go helicopter with a wedge at one point at Hidden Valley, and there was a hole at Hidden Valley that is no longer a hole, and there's a little shed in back. It's not quite an electrical shed.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the guy I was with was ex-military, so he actually climbed on the roof and got it down for me.
Oh.
This was 15 years ago, and I have not been asked back to the valley. And once upon a great time, I'm going to blame my father-in-law on this. He did not put the golf cart in park on the top of a hill, and it went down into a ravine. They had to call a tow truck to get it out. So, yeah, there we are. Let's get into some football. We'll take your golf crazy moments. Nothing but professionalism and excellence here, quite honestly, as guys are practicing up for Thursday, Friday opening rounds here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. Question for the room: how hard should one go at practice? And the obvious answer is, well, you got to go hard. But what's that fine line, guys, of too physical, too much contact, and worrying about injury? The reason I ask that is I felt like there was a lot of concern in the previous regime about getting guys dinged. You didn't want to go uber ultra physical. Not that they didn't hit at all. Then I look at Matt Rhule, and this isn't the Junction Boys of Bear Bryant in the early 50s where it's salt water you're drinking and there's no water breaks. And to practice, you had to clear the boulders out of the practice field. You could have chalked up Bear Bryant's first class at A&M to some mental and physical hazing and probably quite a few heat strokes, to be honest with you. I don't disagree with how and what Matt Rhule's doing. I've not seen a practice. Full disclosure, I have not snuck in and posed as a pillar. But I do think that he gets how physical this league is. And you've got guys that have gotten dinged, maybe through non-contact or just some freak things. But there was a laundry list, guys, of fellas that were dinged up today or at some point that weren't at practice today, and that's concerning, especially at the wide receiver spot, just because of how thin and young it is. And you've got Betts, didn't go. You have Coleman that I don't think was out there. We'll hear from Coach Rhule in a minute, but you have a ball game. You have a ball game 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Well, and the thing is injuries are a part of football. You'd like to know how they occur at practice. There's a difference between, as you've said, there was Terrell Pryor for Ohio State a couple years ago. He's unable to go because he has a non-contact knee injury during fall camp. That's going to happen in football. Yeah. There's a difference between that and, you know what, your tight end coming across the middle of the field and your safety going for the knees because, it's a 250-pound tight end and we can bring him to the ground. A big difference between those two whenever there's reckless disregard for the safety of your teammates and then there's going hard and, you know what, we're preparing for a game. It happens
not being smart.
It happens in fall camp in the NFL, too, with training camp. You're going to have guys that get injured. The question is how does it happen? Does it happen because, you know what, there's a headshot on a player because you're angry and you got beat deep and now you want to take it out on him on the next play, so you go try to hit him
lead
high
with your head? Yeah.
There's a difference between that and, you know what, being a full go. And it's more dangerous from my time playing football and from some coaches that we have talked to that
give me a back in my day.
Well, it's a lot more dangerous from a football sense to have somebody not going 100% while the rest of the team goes 100% than it is to have everybody going 100%. If you go 100%, that's just football. Injuries are going to happen. Where the concern is whenever a defensive lineman's at an 80% go and he gets a cut block to the knee and he's not ready for it because he thinks the offensive lineman's going to be going 80% too. That's where the danger comes in football. So having that message, and we kind of heard that from Matt Rhule during that an inside look, or a look in, series last night, was that, you know what, we're going to be out here, we're going to be going 100%, and the people that are hurting the team are the people that aren't going 100%. Is that because of preparation? Yes, but you also think about the injury factor that happens. If you're on a football field not going 100%, you're a danger to yourself.
Connor, it's an intensity match, to your point, that needs to happen. You have to have guys that are on the same page with, are you full speed, are you half speed, and you got to all be there so you don't blow somebody else up unannounced. And you got to get gritty tough to survive the Big Ten, so you got to have a high element of physicality to live life in the Big Ten.
Look, I understand that you need to be smart in practice, and especially what you were saying, Elijah, about like, hey, let's not have people giving each other headshots or getting a helmet to the knee to the best of our ability, right? But the opposite side of that is, if you're a team that's practicing in fear of injury, I think it's really hard for you to get better at the game of football. Injuries are a part of the game, so you cannot go into practice each day, go into camp each day with a fear of injury, because that's going to limit you in your performance. And if it happens, you know what? It happens, and that's just kind of the way it goes, right, in this physical sport that we all love. But at the same time, you can't practice with a fear of getting injured. That's like a basketball player going out on the court and playing in fear of missing a shot. Everybody's going to miss a shot. You're going to miss a throw on the football field. You can't be out there playing in fear of injury. And Elijah, please tell me this comment is true.
You want to lay it out, Schmidt? You're the one who put it up on the screen.
It's a no comment, and we're just going to not hang. Elijah did not do that here. There'd be a.
I've gone golfing with you. I know the rules. I'm not going to drive my car in the green. For those listening at home, the comment comes in from crew. Elijah drives his cart onto the green. I deny this fully. I've never had my cart on a green. Do I sometimes, whenever it says, hey, keep the cart on the cart path because they're growing grass in the fairway, and hey, my ball's right there, will I maybe take a little detour? Maybe. But a cart on the green? Come on now.
No, Elijah was doing donuts on the green and then tipped the cart.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Coach Rhule, and here is the injury update on Nebraska today.
Also, just injury update. I know you guys saw guys that were in. I know you probably saw some guys that were in and not out. I won't get into specifics of injuries right now, but I'll give you any year-long thing. So obviously Brody's out for the year. Maverick Noonan hurt his knee on Saturday, out for the year. Not an ACL or anything like that. Just kind of a freak thing. So he'll have surgery this week. Be about 6 months. We'll be fine. We'll be as good as new. But obviously our hearts go out to both Brody and Maverick. So everyone else is trending on being ready, if they're out right now.
You got Marcus Washington back?
Yeah, Marcus came back and then got banged up again. Had a really scary moment. It was his birthday yesterday. Had a really scary moment, landed weird. But should be just a couple days, they said. So we expect him to be back by the weekend.
So Marcus Washington's an elder statesman in that wide receiver room. Jacked his hand, and then, as you heard Coach Rhule say, landed awkwardly. That is just heartbreaking for Mav Noonan. Young player, uber talented kid, a guy that we think was going to see some time early, and that absolutely sucks for him.
But whenever I hear Matt Rhule 6 months coming back, I'm no knee expert, but from people I know that have suffered this injury, that reminds me of a meniscus.
Sure.
You can have a meniscus. That timetable sounds about right, which is much less serious than anything like an ACL or an MCL.
Yeah, that's big. So let's get a little bit more into wide receiver depth, that wide receiver room. It is going to be important to have weapons available, but who's wounded and who's not, more from the coach?
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for our guys. I mean, receivers all along have been, who are going to be the guys, right? There's not a lot of returning production. When Marcus was healthy, obviously, when he found out he was going to be healthy, it was really a big thing for us. I think there's a lot of opportunities for some other guys to step up and play, right? So everybody says they want to play as a freshman, but it's really hard to do. And especially in today's day and age where you're so distracted, you have to know how to learn. So, we're giving some young guys, Jalen Lloyd, Jaden Doss are getting some opportunities to go out there and play. And, we'll see where they're at. They're trending in the right direction. But Billy's, a guy who's, unbelievably productive. Alex Bullock's having a really, really good camp. Alex, you guys know how I feel about Alex. And a lot of other guys. So a lot of guys are taking advantage of their moment. So, but that's probably of all the positions, that's where the most questions are right now for us on offense. Kind of know who the guys who have played, but that's remains to be seen.
So Betts and Coleman not working today. Nothing to panic about with either, which is good. But I think there's some hope that you're going to be able to get a guy like Malachi Coleman on the field, not overwhelm him, but he is super talent. Xavier Betts is somebody that has busted his butt to get back and is a big-time potential difference maker in that receiver room, but it still sounds like Kemp's kind of the guy that is the security blanket right now. And, of course, you have tight ends you can find that have been continuing to work. Some footage from that I'll look in. Good work by Fedoni and just the mini clips we've had a chance to see.
And just reading from the outside there, does it sound like Matt Rhule is overly concerned about these things? Maybe he's putting up a good front for the media, but he's shown it time and time again in his multiple stops in college football. He's not going to be afraid to play freshmen. If they're doing what it takes in practice, there's a talent differential. He's not going to be afraid to play those guys, especially if there's injuries that come into play. I'm sure he's excited by the prospect of getting these young guys on the field early. Now, are they going to be able to step up? That remains to be seen, but it falls down on guys like Garrett McGuire and Matt Rhule to make sure they're ready for that moment.
489-1240. We'll take some calls, get more of your craziest golf moment commentary via Twitter, email. Some of you have chimed in there, and also the stream available. Hail Varsity YouTube channel can comment that way. Mitch Sherman's next with Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow here at the Pinnacle Bank Golf Championships. Of course, action gets underway Thursday and Friday. Practice round today. Pro-Am tomorrow. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We say hi to Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, we have gotten into maybe some embellished golf stories, epic fails on the course. Do you have a moment you may not be proud of that anger got the best of you on the green, on the tee box, maybe in the sand? How are you doing?
Probably in my younger days, lost a club in the water, not accidentally. I feel like that's pretty common. So not necessarily like the best story that you're going to hear today. I did hear you for a minute on my radio dial here before you called, and in preparation for this answer, I thought maybe you were going to ask me my craziest golf story. I was going to say anytime I've birdied a hole, it's been a crazy golf story for me, because that is not necessarily what tends to happen. The other thing I thought of, and again, this is not in any way me getting angry or upset, but once I had the opportunity to follow around a group of golfers at that event where you are stationed right now in Omaha, and I was just utterly shocked. And this is not the PGA Tour, but I was just amazed at standing alongside the tee box when those guys hit the ball. It was humbling. I'll say that.
It is. You think of your game, you look at theirs, and absolutely.
Well,
and
did you see the guys at the qualifier up at Highlands Golf Course yesterday, where like the winning score was, I think, 12 under or something like that? And I went, man, to go golf Highlands to get 12 under would be the highlight of my life. If I get to even par at Highlands, I'm going to have the highlight of my life.
I'm with Mitch. If I get a bird or a par, I'm dancing. It's all good. We have a putt-putt golf story to share from Todd. He emails in. Apparently, Todd busted his putting head. It broke off. Back in the day, I broke the head off, and it flew out into the parking lot. It broke a turning light on an old-school Ford Bronco out of state. I gave the guy $20. I was intoxicated. I didn't know one could get lit on a putt-putt course. Mitch, do you know any good putt-putt spots?
Yeah, you can get lit anywhere. I learned to golf at Westwood Heights in Omaha along 135th 32nd, that area, and West Center Road. And on the third hole is an uphill, straight par 3, like every hole on that course. And I'm a lefty, and would tend, especially when there was danger on the left, to slice it pretty bad. And I don't know how many, if any, windshields I hit coming west on center on that hole with my tee shots, but every time I teed off there, it was a major danger zone for anybody who was driving along West Center Road. I never had anybody come into the course and chase me down as I was on the green. But
that's a positive. Speaking with the uphill, let's go to football. How uphill is Nebraska's wide receiver room right now, about 3 weeks before Minnesota?
Yeah, they're fortunate there's no game this weekend. I mean, you would be looking at, I think, several walk-ons. And Matt Rhule does not look at a guy like Alex Bullock as a walk-on. He'd be one of the next guys to get a scholarship on this roster if there were open spots today. And his brother, John, got a scholarship after the spring. Alex is athletically gifted in a way that goes beyond John. He's taller, and you see him out there at wide receiver. He doesn't look like a walk-on, and Rhule has made that clear how he feels about Bullock. But the experience is not there. He's gonna play a lot, no matter who's healthy. And right now, as far as experience goes, they've got Billy Kemp. And, we didn't ask Rhule. I wish we would have today. We'll have to get to this Saturday about Josh Fleeks. He's back at practice based on what we've seen on video with what Nebraska has posted on social media, although I did not notice much from him, if anything, from him this morning. Really what they've got is Billy Kemp and then a bunch of inexperience. Kemp is he's a small guy, but he plays big, and he's going to be their punt returner, and he's going to be one of their kickoff returners. So they're asking a lot from him. He's going to get a single digit, and he's going to get beers on me the whole weekend at Minnesota, Chris, if Kemp is not one of the 10 single-digit numbers, and they're going to start to announce those this week. So they'll trickle out throughout camp, and by the time they get to game week, there'll be 10 players with single-digit numbers. The only way Billy Kemp doesn't get a single-digit number is if he doesn't want it.
Does that offer stand?
I'm wearing 15, and I want to stay that way. But he wore number 4 at Virginia, so I think that's where he'll be. They've got Billy Kemp. They've got Alex Bullock. They've got Ty Hahn. And most of the rest of the guys are either true freshmen or they're sidelined right now.
It's Mitch Sherman with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Mitch, while we're talking single-digit numbers, one of the risers through fall camp and through summer as well that we've heard plenty about within the past couple of days is Tommy Hill. Do you think Tommy Hill's in that conversation to get a single-digit number? He had his ups and downs last year, more downs than ups probably for Nebraska as he made the move to wide receiver and then back to defense. Really felt like none of the position coaches wanted him last year. Now the coaches can't stop raving about what he's done for that defense. Tell us a little about the rise of Tommy Hill and if you think he's going to be getting a single-digit number here in short order.
He's got a chance. Yeah, I think if you're basing this specifically what the guys have done in camp here this month, then he's definitely got a chance. And Matt Rhule says that he said this on Saturday that Tommy Hill has made the biggest turnaround of any player on the roster in the time that he's been in Lincoln. So, and this coming from a guy, Matt Rhule, who watched every rep last year. So he knows where Tommy Hill was at a year ago. And the coaches liked him in camp last year, but he got out on the field early in the season and had some struggles from the beginning. Even against Northwestern in Ireland, they were picking on him and he was having a hard time keeping up, and it just kind of snowballed on him from there, lost some confidence. They moved him to offense, didn't work really on offense. He came back to defense at the end of the year. So I think there's a chance. I don't know that it's a slam dunk in the same way that Billy Kemp is. I think if Jeff Sims wants to wear a single-digit number, he's going to get one. I think Gabe Irvin's got a chance to get one. I think Isaac Gifford is definitely getting one. You could see Quentin Newsome getting a single digit too. So it's you're starting to as Rhule said, the guys who are setting the temperature for the room are starting to emerge right now as they get into the second week of camp, and that's where he wants to be. They don't want to be in September or October and still looking for those players.
Mitch Sherman is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Mitch, I want to talk about injuries in a different area of the team, and that's the offensive line, especially with Teddy Prochazka being kind of banged up yet again. He said, and he being Matt Rhule, said that he would be available for the game at Minnesota, but how concerned are you throughout the year about Teddy's maintenance on this offensive line?
Yeah, you have to be concerned because he just hasn't been able to stay on the field, whether it's in practice or for an extended period of time in games. And I think if they can find a way to keep him healthy, and that's, Teddy, that's a great match that they have program now because of the emphasis on preventing re-injury and recovery and everything that they're going to do. And some of the technology is still some time away. It's still a few months away. And they had hoped to have it this year. They don't have access to everything because that new facility isn't entirely, it's not open yet. It's not ready. They're going to move into the locker room this month, seemingly, but not everything that a guy like Teddy Prochazka could benefit from is going to be available to him this year. Still, everything they've got over at Memorial Stadium is great, and the attitude, the way that this staff, and I'm not just talking about the coaches. I mean, down to the trainers, the strength staff, the nutritionists, the sports science department. They're all geared toward keeping somebody like him healthy. So that's great. But whether it's going to happen is another story. We'll see. He got hurt right out of the gate in the first practice of the year, I believe. So he's on an exercise bike now, and I don't expect that he's going to be out there playing 30 or 40 reps against Minnesota. If he makes it back, my hunch would be they're going to bring him back slow, and he plays a few series, and then they try to get him to a place against Colorado where he can play more, and then more from there. So they're going to need other players at tackle. I would think that Turner Corcoran's going to be the starter on August 31st at left tackle. And then you have Nuri Nuili, who is coming back from a suspension last year and is also not at practice right now. He's in a green jersey running through some conditioning work while the offensive line goes and smashes into each other. And they're going to need Nuri, too. It's Ethan Piper and Henry Lutkowski at offensive guard. And they can't roll with just those two guys. They need somebody else. And I think the hope was that it could be a three-man rotation with Nuri and that mix too at the top. And still they'll need more depth. But right now it's two guys that they feel like they can rely on at offensive guard, which is a tough spot to be at on August 8th.
Mitch Sherman with The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, about 60 seconds, real quick reaction to Nebraska's video diary of camp, a look in, episode 1. What'd you think?
Yeah, really insightful. It's good content. I'm glad Nebraska is showing people what it's really like at camp. I think that's an accurate indication. It's not just glossed over and getting things out the way they want them to be. I mean, sure, it reflects well on the program, but I mean, listen to Matt Rhule and his words to the team after one of the practices about halfway through that thing, and I think that's a great indication, a great look into who he is as a coach and the way that he treats his players. So, very interesting, and then interesting also to hear Matt Rhule talk about it today, and just how happy he is to share some of that with the Nebraska fans.
Mitch, can you name the song that David Borchers was rapping in that video whenever he gets up in front of the team?
I could hardly hear it. I was watching on my phone, and they bleeped out about 80% of the lyrics. So, and there were words that they were allowing to get into that video that you might normally see bleeped out. So it went beyond even that. I don't know. I could see Matt Rhule blush a little bit when he came back to the front of the room to move on to the next part of the meeting. I'm not sure that he intended for that to happen, but they still put it in the video, so good for them. Again,
Mitch, if you want to get those words,
uncut, I guess.
Freestyle by Lil Baby is the song, Mitch. You can do some research.
All right. Okay, I'll check it out.
Mitch, take care, bud. Thanks for the time.
All right, thanks.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio Road Show here at the club at Indian Creek. Pinnacle Bank Championships get rolling. That is going to be Thursday, Friday opening rounds. You need to get here to Indian Creek and can log on pinnaclebankchampionships.com. Get your passes that way. Take the family. Enjoy professional golf at an incredibly high level. Beautiful course here at Indian Creek. And it is just magical to be here. We're on the 17th green. Shockingly enough, near Patron. For me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh. Connor's like, well, watch out. Get in water.
It's only Tuesday, guys.
It's only Tuesday. Pace yourselves, gentlemen.
Only thing better than Patron for Schmitty is free Patron for Schmitty. And for those of you that have the tickets to the pavilion, I've heard free Patron could be in the cards.
Well, dude, it is set up. Food, drinks.
It's staring Schmitty in the face right now.
It's behind me, and the doors are locked. They're padlocked. They knew I was coming.
See, and ever since Connor turned 21, we heard about that. Oh, free drinks. We better keep Connor at home. He's going to...
Yeah, that's another incentive.
Problem is Connor's going to roll up Friday and say... He's going to ask me for my left or my right hand, and can he put some salt on it?
You're in luck. Unfortunately, I have a game to do that night, so I can't.
So you're like,
but I would.
No. It doesn't mean you can't. It means you shouldn't.
You wouldn't. You don't want
true.
a body shot with Schmidt. I love it. That's funny. Everyone in unison just dry heave like.
We're losing viewers quickly.
No, everyone's just ducking and covering.
Everyone, the mental image, taking a shot out of Schmitty's belly button.
Yeah, and it is a personal injury moment, possibly, for those doing that. In all honesty, the dire law there for you. If you have a personal injury accident, you can count on dire law to provide a helping hand when you need it. No matter what you're dealing with, call dire law and their team today at 402-393-7529. Visit dire.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's dire.law, 402-393-7529. This is all hypothetical when it comes to taking body shots off of me during the Pinnacle Bank Championships. I kid, but no, it is full of amenities. The golf is incredible, and the talent that is here is just phenomenal. And we're talking $1 million purse on the Corn Ferry Tour. That is big time, and you see some of the players right now finishing up their practice rounds. Weather should be beautiful, and we got a little bit of a breeze. It's not straight up camp weather when we talk football this time of year, so it's pretty good.
Well, Schmitty, one more perk. You talked about the $1 million purse for the winner here this weekend. How about your chance at $10,000 if there's a hole-in-one here at 17?
That's
behind
awesome.
us. If you're
We're not eligible.
No, we're not eligible. But if you're here at the pavilion, there's a hole-in-one on 17. Your chance at $10,000. You got to get out here for some more information. But that would be awesome for one of our listeners to get out here, and maybe your chance at going home with $10,000.
$10,000. I think of the club at Indian Creek, and our dear friend, the late great Jack Pierce, would always have his golf tournament out here. And it was for the Nebraska Independent College Foundation. Jack would have the mother of all silent auctions in the clubhouse. You may see a former Nebraska quarterback having a good time after the golf tournament. At least we did. That was an epic interview that I think we had to erase. It was just brilliant. But no, Jack would always have his golf tournament out here, and it was just an incredible party. But there was a similar hole prize with the tournament where if you got a hole-in-one on one of the par threes, you could win a Lexus.
Ooh.
Well, I got the Lexus with my tee shot.
Oh, that took me a second to realize what you meant.
I got it. It was on the hood. And that's when you just kind of drop the club like your Happy Gilmore shouldn't have been standing there moment. But everything, it buffed right out, as they say.
And here I was thinking, you said if you get a hole-in-one, you get a Lexus. I'm like, did they have a paid partnership with a strip club or something?
No, Lexus is...
Lexus.
Not
a singular
not
Lexus.
Not a Lexus. Let's talk Matt Rhule, and let's talk about Nebraska's version of Hard Knocks, guys. This is a snippet that a lot of folks have been talking about, and it's on YouTube. Invite you to watch it. It's 30 minutes if you haven't. A look in, or a look in, to be more specific, so we're not confusing Alexis or Alexis, but a look in with Nebraska. And this is Coach Rhule talking about the 10%ers and what he is and what he wants, and that's real ones.
Every player in college football on all 130 some Division I teams is figuring out what they got to do to start. They all want to play in the NFL. What we find is, as adversity comes, it gets hard, okay, you're one of two people. You're either the person that when things get really hard becomes a victim and says it's not my fault, man, I'm running with the... If you talk about which team you're running with is affecting the way you play, you're the worst teammate there is, just so we're on the same page. You're the worst. You're disrespecting the guys on the side with you, and you're saying I'm not good because they're not good. You're a victim. Or you're one of the rare few who says, I love this. It's just making me better. It sucks. It hurts. My legs hurt. My back hurt. My neck hurt. I'm tired. And I got to go through this to be different than everybody else. Which guy are you? What you'll start to see is guys tap out or rise up. There's a lot of ways to tap out, guys. A lot of things you can blame. You can tap out a million different ways. Most of the world does, yes? In fact, about 90% of the world does. Are you a 10%er? Are you somebody that even when you're dying to just say, hey, I need a blow right here, says, let me finish. You're not part of the brotherhood just because you're talented or you're on scholarship. You're part of the brotherhood if you sacrifice for your teammates and you put them first. So I want you to see that. And I am not going to worry about the guys that are not in. I'm only going to go try to win with the guys who are in. But you must hear me. I will not get to game week and then change who I am just to try to win a game. I'm playing with the real ones. I'm playing with the real dudes. I'm playing with the real guys. So when it gets hard, embrace it. Right? Embrace it. That's what I'm doing. Those who are with me, coaches, players, staff, everybody, we go through this process to come out in the season knowing we're tough as shit. You don't get tough. You don't get tough by talking. You get tough by doing that and trying to kill it. You're on the same page. Yes, sir. So call each other out and hold each other accountable. Okay? Greatest thing you can do for your teammates is to go all out.
Matt Rhule, and that is the proverbial run through the brick wall, look him in the eye, motivate, but more so than anything, guys, is be truthful. Be who you are every day. Easy to say, hard for some to do. And can you be authentic and real? And that is one element Nebraska's going to have when it comes to what's going to improve their season. What's going to make the Matt Rhule era different than past coaches. And it's going to be that authenticity and follow through, most importantly, with what he's saying.
And the quote that's going to stick with me from that video is the most important thing you can do for your teammates is go all out. We talked about it with the injuries in segment 1, but it comes down to preparation too, making sure your team's ready for Minnesota. You know what? Some of these guys you're getting looks at from practice, they aren't going to be as good as the guys you're going up against from Michigan, the guys that are playing in college football playoffs. If you're not given 100% effort every single day, if you're given 90% effort, whenever you get hit with that 110% from Michigan, it's going to be real different. If you're getting that full effort from your teammates, though, in practice, you get a better look, you get that better preparation.
75% from Michigan is enough to cover.
Yeah.
We'll wind down hour 1 here at the club at Indian Creek.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Winding down this first hour, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're live here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. The club at Indian Creek, and the opening round Thursday and Friday here in Omaha at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. You're welcome to come on out and check things out. Make sure you log on, pinnaclebankchampionship.com. It's where you go for that. Just gorgeous setting. Practice round today, pro-am tomorrow. Reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes in mind. Straight ahead, the driver has one job: to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Thanks for sharing your crazy golf stories or golf moments. And this is in reference to, I don't know, maybe a little Happy Gilmore losing his mind, breaking a club, putter toss. Mitch Sherman had some confession. I had a confession. Elijah had a confession. Connor may or may not have helicoptered a club into the water somewhere in suburban Chicago.
Without naming any names, the best story I've ever heard from the course, again, not going to name any names, but a friend of mine, they had a little wager on one hole. Whoever lost that hole had to go for a swim on one of the golf courses in town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got
that's pretty funky to do.
Yeah, he got kicked off the course, and I'm pretty sure got a lifetime ban from that particular course, which is funny because following college, and this was during college, but following college, he got a job at another golf course around town. Apparently, they didn't call around.
Are you the guy? No comment, no proof. Don't believe everything.
It's not on my resume.
Don't believe everything you hear.
I believe those gentlemen also had a few before that round, so that maybe explains the swim.
I mean, have there been worse moments in life where you start getting after it on the golf course and then you wonder what the hell the rest of the evening entailed? You go to some buddy's house or you start throwing some vodka lemonades and all of a sudden you're on somebody's deck at 4 a.m.?
That's more likely for me, as funny as this sounds, following an evening trip to the bowling alley.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, your bowling league.
Uh-huh. But you're building up you're building up reps at the bowling alley.
Yeah. No, I had a man offer, was it $100 if I took down an entire pitcher of beer in 30 seconds.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Yeah, is it Bud Heavy?
It was Bud Light, and I did not get the $100. So
that's a tough ask.
Yeah, but that was one of those nights.
That's fine. That's all right. Tim Brando, longtime play-by-play man for college football, the NFL, college basketball, Fox Sports. Tim's going to be seeing a lot of Big Ten and Big 12 this year. We'll sit down with Tim Brando next hour to get things kicked off. What's he think of Nebraska? What's he think of Rhule? What are the Big Red's chances? And a little more on realignment. If there's realignment fatigue, forgive us, but it's still in the news, and it could still affect Nebraska and the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. The good thing is you're not out shopping. You're spending the money that the Big Ten has been throwing your way for a while, and hey, you're going to get better football games as a Nebraska fan because of the additions of a Washington, of a USC, of a UCLA, of an Oregon. The task now, start winning. Be competitive. And you've got a little bit of a leadway to build up to be competitive and be better than competitive, be the winner.
Well, in being in the Big Ten, you have every resource needed compared to the rest of the country to be competitive, and not to be just to be competitive, to be a winning football program.
Yep, you're going to have a total of 6 teams that have been in the playoff in your league now, and that thing expands to 12. Tim Brando's next, hour 2 coming up with Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it. It's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship. Of course, Corn Ferry Tournament gets rolling here end of the week. We welcome in college football on our mind. An incredible play-by-play man. He's been part of college football on your TV for years. Tim Brando back with us at Tim Brando. Going to see a lot of him on Fox with his partner Spencer Tillman. Tim, good to spend a few minutes and talk some ball. Season's almost here. How are you doing?
I'm great, and thanks for not saying exactly how many years.
Distinguished is the definition.
Time. Thank you.
Yeah. Distinguished, yes, man. We love this time of year. We're excited for the season ahead for Nebraska. And Tim, you've done your share of Nebraska games in your career. You also follow the program along with the great coverage you provide each Saturday. And I want to get your take here. What is your, I don't want to say excitement level, but what's the level of intrigue you have for Matt Rhule in year 1 for Nebraska?
Well, among the high-profile coaches in Division I college football, perhaps, let's face it, there's no denying that Dion is the hottest story. Okay, there's no doubt about that. We have to give him his due. None of us know how that experiment is going to go at Colorado, but certainly having the Colorado-Nebraska game, which I know because I just saw Joel and Gus at our Fox seminar about 3 weeks ago. They're through the roof about having that game, and we as a network are excited about having Colorado on the first 2 weeks. They have TCU, and then they get you guys in week 2. And I no doubt hope that I get up to Lincoln again with Spencer before the season is out. But I would have to say, without question, if you take Deion out of the mix, the most intriguing story, I believe, is having Rhule come into Nebraska. And for a variety of reasons. There were a number of people that just felt when he went to Baylor that, gosh, this is a guy that's a Northeast guy. He's coming from Temple. This is, we're talking Friday night lights in the state of Texas, and you're coaching at Baylor, and that thing is just a complete dumpster fire. How's that going to go? And you saw what happened. I mean, it was immediate, what Matt was able to do. And to see where he was able to take Baylor in such a short period of time. And then he didn't exactly leave the cupboard there, and Dave Aranda picked up where he left off. And, of course, Joey McGuire was also on that staff, and you see what Joey's done at Texas Tech. Man, it's just amazing, his pedigree. And I suspect that he is just what the doctor ordered for the Cornhuskers. I can't allow myself to think otherwise. Now, I will stop short of saying he's the next generation's Nick Saban.
That's all right, Tim. Wasn't going to bring that one up. It's all right, my man.
Yeah, I might as well get out ahead of it, right? But I do think that once you get past Deion, who's clearly is kind of soaking up all the attention and not leaving much room for any of the other newbies in college football, I think the Matt Rhule hire was a magnificent one, and I cannot wait to see how immediate his turnaround is, because it certainly was at Baylor. And it's hard not to look at that and say that you would not expect it to be as good, if not better, in the land of Big Red.
And Tim, you've seen a lot of college football in your day, and again, I won't mention how many years. We're not going to go there. But whenever you think about that wealth of college football experience that you have, you've seen a lot of coaches that have failed in turnarounds of programs, and a lot of coaches that have succeeded in turnarounds of programs. Whenever you're watching Matt Rhule here this season, regardless if it's a 10-2 season or a 6-6 season, either way, it's progress. But is there anything you're looking for in terms of these are signs that show early in a tenure that a coach's turnaround is going to be successful, or at least has a good chance of being successful?
Well, I do know about his culture. I do know about his culture and how he creates a culture of winning. I've been around Matt enough to know that. And anyone that spends any time in and around the program now will be able to see that. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so confident that it's going to happen. But my question is just how quickly will it happen? Because the Big Ten is that's a lot, and Nebraska's issues, albeit not as grave the circumstances as he inherited at Baylor. I mean, that was a program that almost got the death penalty. I mean, it came dangerously close to getting the death penalty. Because of everything that had gone on there post Briles, and that's what he inherited. When you look at Nebraska, the issues are unique to the school and unique to the history of the program because of the geographic location they find themselves in and the landscape of college football now being what it is. This is a storied program that has never been able to rekindle the flame, to get it going, to get it back where its lofty perch was for, decades. Certainly the bulk of my lifetime. Nebraska was the it program. But a lot of things changed with our sport, and specifically. The realignment was part of that, and they were on the cutting edge of that, and it did not work well. And I think it put Nebraska in a bit of a pickle with regard to what the expectations of the fan base were, what the game had turned to from an offensive standpoint, and how difficult it was to recruit to that end, with the game changing and evolving the way that it did. Those were things that were really outside the players and the coaching staff's control, but that every one of them that went in there had to deal with. Really since Frank Solich left, it was that way. And it stayed that way. And I do think Rhule can turn it around because of his culture and because of his teachings. And he's just a damn smart coach. I mean, what happened at Carolina was what could happen to any coach in the National Football League when you have injuries at the mission-critical position. But their loss and his circumstances that were difficult are really to Nebraska's gain. Because there are a lot of people in Carolina that wish that he had not left. I mean, there are. And I have friends there that have told me that. So there's no doubt in my mind he will be successful. It's just a question of, in my mind, how quickly he will be. And I tend to believe that it will be faster than maybe even some of the Nebraska fans believe.
Fox's Tim Brando with us, Hail Varsity Radio at Tim Brando's, where you follow him on Twitter. And, of course, you'll see him this season on Fox with college football. Tim, what does Nebraska need to be? We hear this narrative, and I believe it, covering college football for a while. I know what college football is like and how fun Saturdays are when Nebraska's good, when Ohio State's been, when Texas, I just said a bad word on the radio and so in some people's ears in Nebraska, Texas is good, Notre Dame, Miami, SC. I mean, go down the list of teams that you grew up watching and following on Saturdays, those big games that weren't in your backyard. What does Nebraska need to be in this landscape of college football, and even the new Big Ten, because there's Hollywood and then now the Great Northwest coming to Lincoln on some Saturdays?
Yeah, I mean, in the aftermath of what happened on Friday and the fallout from that, and that's, gosh, you can get me on a roll talking about how I feel about some of the negativity coming from many of my colleagues in sports media, particularly those that are writing columns, and many of whom I respect a great deal, about what happened. I have a completely different view from many of those. Maybe we can get into that later, but
sure.
Specifically from your questions point, I think that Nebraska needs to be who they are, and you begin with toughness. And I know this. I know that that's what Matt Rhule would say from the very jump. It's going to be about toughness, which means make sure you have a back that can get you the really tough yards, and make sure that you've got an offensive line that understands that it can block and get downhill and be able to move the football that way. A very active fly-to-the-ball defense, which is, we hear it often, and I know it's, how many more times can you hear it? We need to reinvent the black shirts. I know you hear it ad nauseum. I do think that Matt, his philosophy is just that. But he's going to wing it, too. I mean, spreading that thing out, creating avenues to run, and looking really at the way he did it at Baylor. I mean, he knows that he's got to have a great quarterback. He's got to have at least one, maybe two great running backs. And the offensive line's got to be able to both pass block and run block. And what has happened, I think, in the years since Frank Solich left, when Nebraska got away from their identity, it seems that they were never particularly good at either one of those because they had lost their identity. I think he's going to reestablish the identity, and it'll start with toughness, the ability to win more at the line of scrimmage than they've currently been winning. But at the same time, it's not just going to be ground and pound, because he likes big plays. He likes explosive plays. And he wants to have the players that can make those plays happen. So that's what Nebraska needs to be, and I think that philosophy and starting with the culture is how you go about getting it done.
Tim, how important do you think it is from the grander sense of college football for Nebraska to be great again? Because we saw this a little bit with Tennessee last year, just the amount of excitement that they caused in the SEC, the fact that Tennessee was back closer to where we expected them to be. And with the Big Ten growing with what it's going to be in the greater sense of college football starting in 2024 and 2025, how important is it that Nebraska gets back closer to where we expect that Nebraska could or should be?
Well, let me just give it to you from the standpoint of a 30,000-foot snapshot from someone who loves the game but has no fandom whatsoever for any team. I really don't. I mean, I don't care who wins. I never have cared who won. Oh, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see my alma mater get to a bowl game. I hope Terry Bowden does well at ULM this year. I'm an old Northeast guy. Before it became a hyphen school, it was a directional school. I don't mind it when the home state does well, and my daughters went to LSU and Ole Miss, and so I sunk a little money into them, and I may have a little more of a keen eye on some of their games. But in truth, I'm just going to give you the snapshot from 30,000 feet. For many people, many people that are fair-minded and just love college football, and they don't have a dog in the hunt, when you start talking about premier programs through the history of college football, when certain teams are down, it doesn't bother them that much. You know, they may have gotten tired, really tired of Florida. Okay, so the fact that Florida's down, it doesn't really bother as many people as you might think. The fact that Texas keeps saying they're back when they're not back, there are a lot of people that are okay with that. Okay, that USC has not won a title since the Bush push and Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush were together. There are a lot of people that they really don't mind that so much. I mean, they don't. Nebraska is a program that I think is universally loved outside the footprint. Now, maybe not so much with your rivals. Maybe not in Colorado. Maybe not in Texas. Maybe not in Oklahoma. But you know what I'm saying. The Nebraska fan base is one that has been around the block and has traveled to many other sites and has won the respect of a lot of fans of a lot of other teams around the country. And to see that incredible stat every year that for how many sellouts are we at now? How many in a row has it been?
Wow. Just to be since 62, and Nebraska's over. They're pushing to 400, aren't they, Elijah?
There you go.
I believe they're in the 360s right now.
To be able to say that through all of the tumult that you've been through is amazing. I don't think there's another program in the country that could have been as irrelevant nationally as Nebraska's been that would be considered a blue blood that still had that kind of support. You wouldn't see that even at some of the biggest SEC schools. Alabama went through it. I was there. I covered it in the years post-Bear Bryant and pre-Nick Saban. Even during the years when Gene Stallings was still coaching after they had won a national title in 1992, I was doing SEC games in that time period between 94 and all the way up and through the time that I left CBS, 2013. If they were bad, there were empty seats at Bryant-Denny. There were. And a lot of unrest. Nebraska's had its unrest, but its fan base they've just been steadfast. So I think that wins a lot of favor around the country in places where college football is a big deal, and yet the fans may not have the so-called dog in the hut or Husker in the hut, but they're going to be happy for you if you do well and get that thing going again. So I believe that there even some cynics in the media would probably be pretty excited if Nebraska were relevant again.
Tim Brando, a couple more minutes with us. Hail Varsity Radio, college football thoughts. Fox's Tim Brando, at Tim Brando on Twitter is where you find him. You'll see him on your flat screens, college football Saturdays. Tim, gonna back out and talk expansion real quick. Do you like the addition of Washington and Oregon to the Big Ten. Second part to that, what do you feel? Because I know you spend a lot of time with the ACC as well, about some reports earlier this week with Cal and Stanford maybe heading to the ACC.
I really have a problem seeing that becoming a reality. And it may. I may be wrong. I'm sure Jim Phillips, because of the relationships he has, the ACC commissioner, sees the potential of bringing in those two schools as an opportunity to maybe force ESPN, his television partner, to get their payout up from where it's currently located, and it's not a lot for each team. And the reason the ACC's been in this position is because of a bad contract that they signed with grant of rights all the way up through 2036, and that was because they were adamant, the ACC was, about having their own cable network, similar to the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, ESPN did a pretty smart thing. They said, well, sure, we'll give you that. We'll give you your cable network, but we want to hold you down to a contract for all the way till 2036. That payout is incredible. You've probably heard the reports about Florida State looking to maybe find some help with Wall Street to possibly give them a loan so they can buy their way out and then pay them back over a period of time from their television money. That's how badly some of these teams want to get out of the ACC. I think with that issue confronting the ACC simultaneously with Cal and Stanford potentially being teams that might be coming in, I would, if I were the people in charge at those two schools, I would pause for a moment before I sold myself to the ACC. To me, to take the cobble of teams that are remaining in the Pac-12, hook them up with the Mountain West, who already has a linear television deal, I think that would be a much wiser choice. Remember, what league you're in is not going to matter quite as much with the expansion to 12 teams coming in the college football playoff. Taking the route of least resistance probably makes more sense, and I think geographically especially it would make sense to those two schools. That's just a thought about what's going on in the ACC. As for what the circumstances are with the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the teams that they got from the Pac-12 and the criticism that's come since then, you guys no doubt follow me on social media. You know from past appearances that I've made on other shows, be they podcasts or national radio shows of some kind, I saw this coming a long time ago. I saw Deion Sanders when he took the job at Colorado. I felt like he knew that his administration was going to get them back in the Big 12. I really felt that then, and it proved to be prophetic. I think that this notion, and you're reading some of it now, most of it from the print media and even from some writers that I have respect for, this notion that college football as we knew it is dead and that television nukes the Pac-12 is as off the charts as anything I think I've ever read. Listen, the Pac-12 was asleep at the wheel. They were a one-car accident, not giving due diligence to what was necessary when your rights were up. They piddled around with their television rights for far too long and allowed Brett Yormark, a fast-talking New York lawyer that knew how to build a success story at NASCAR, comes into the Big 12 after losing two of the biggest brands in the sport, Texas and OU, supplants them with some really solid programs out of the American, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, coupled with bringing BYU in, which brings not only a national but an international following, and he gets a great contract with both ESPN and Fox on linear television. And he basically understood that the market was soft and got as much money from TV as he could, so much so that there wasn't any money left from the networks, given the economy that we have. So for the Pac-12 to only be able to come up with an Apple-centric, digital, incentive-based contract offer, that was not going to please the presidents and the athletic directors of those schools that were a part of the remaining 9 in the Pac-12. So Kliavkoff, with the help of Larry Scott, who really ran that place into a ditch, The Pac-12 did this to themselves. Yeah, television plays a role. It always does, an important one. But to say that there was some devious plan on the part of executives, whether they be at the company I work for or at ESPN, to say it was some devious plot to end the Pac-12, which some have written, is absolute smut and beneath conversation for me.
Tim Brando's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, at Tim Brando on Twitter. Tim, it's been awesome to chat some college ball with you. We'll do this again in season if time permits for you. But dear friend of yours that we love talking to for a lot of years is Beano Cook. What advice would Beano have for the Irish, Notre Dame, right now?
Notre Dame's got material. They always have, but they've got this egocentric problem about not being in a conference. You're going to have to, at some point, even if you have the best home field advantage since the Kremlin, at some point you're going to have to join a conference and play along. Because if you don't, you're going to get left at the wagon, just like those folks out on the West Coast did. Now, Duke Rockne wanted to play that game with USC. He wanted to take the train all the way out there to play against USC. Well, now USC's got to fly to the Midwest in the frozen tundras to play. Notre Dame needs to know that it's a new game. There are new sheriffs, and you're no longer the big kahuna.
That was pretty good.
Well played. The best home field since the Kremlin. That's so good. I could see him going to the Big 12. You know what? This is disrespectful, but it looks more winnable as I bite my tongue than the Big 10 or the SEC.
Well, honestly, they could save the ACC from its woes, its problems. They could.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were contractually bound up until just recently. If they were to have gone into a league, John Swafford, the former commissioner, had that deal signed, and Jack Swarbrick, the then athletic director at Notre Dame, had signed it. So they were bound contractually to go to the ACC if they had left their level of independence. But now that's not the case. And you raise an interesting point. I think there's been enough bad blood over time between Big Ten ADs and coaches with Notre Dame that even though it makes more geographical sense to go there, I just think there have been way too many circumstances and impasses for them to overcome for that to ever be the case.
Tim, have just a magical college football season again. You're awesome. We love catching up, and thanks for giving us a few minutes today.
You got it. Hope to get it back up there. I love being in Lincoln and seeing my friend Dan Whitney and Larry the Cable Guy and all my friends in Nebraska. Y'all have a great one. I hope to see you. I mean, Joel and Gus can't get all your games. At some point, Spencer and I have got to get there.
Well, I want to see you there. That'd be good to see you both. That'd be good.
Thanks a lot.
Tim Brando, extended sit-down with the voice of Fox. You hear Tim on college football, Big 10, Big 12, college basketball, and just a great dude. He loved himself having a good old time at the Hail Varsity offices. I think it was, 2019? That sound about right?
It was before I was around, so it may have been 2018.
Might have been 2018. Tim Brando was cutting a rug on the balcony there in the rail yard. It was cool.
And one of the reasons why it'd be great to get Tim on a broadcast is because they're going to be pining for Roger Craig to get into the NFL Hall of Fame. If they're at a Nebraska game, Tillman played with Roger Craig with the 49ers. He hopped on Twitter and pushed for it. Get on the national television broadcast and do what's right. Push for Roger Craig to finally get into the Hall of Fame.
We'll get Roger in the booth with him.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Actually, we'll get Artez in the booth with him. Artez will take care of that. We're here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship practice round going on here at the club at Indian Creek. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We had the longer straws. Connor Clark, bless his heart, is in studio and blinking furiously. Blink twice if you're angry, Connor. And
just doing my job.
Just doing your job. So we're talking some college football. We talked about non-proud golf moments. The response was tremendous, and I'm sure it was cathartic for some. Yeah, I did do X, Y, and Z once on a golf course out of anger and frustration. It's okay. We've all been there. You're going to see some of the pros and future stars Thursday and Friday for rounds 1 and 2, and stick around Saturday, Sunday, and see this thing to completion. PinnacleBankChampionship.com is where you log on to get your day passes. Do that. We're just caddy corner from the Patron Zone. This is beautiful. Yeah. Now, it's not open, nor is it unlocked. There has been research done. So another time, maybe later in the week, we'll have a little Patron to get us hydrated.
Well, and the beautiful thing about this, and Schmidt, we were talking during the break, is just the phenomenal players that you get a chance to see whenever you're here in the Corn Ferry Tour. It's the stars before they're stars, if you will. It's kind of one of the selling points to college football. Mm-hmm. You know, you get to watch the future NFL stars before they're stars. Here on the Corn Ferry Tour, I mean, the who's who of golf over the past decade or so, so many of them have come through the Corn Ferry Tour, and so many of them for the next decade or so are going to be in Omaha this weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's your chance to check them out. And as you said, get some Patron in you while you do it. Enjoy the beautiful weather we have here in Omaha this week. And
beer garden, beer tent, food and drink.
A phenomenal view of the 17th hole to boot.
Yeah, it is outstanding. So check things out. Pinnacle Bank Championships here. Pro-Am tomorrow. We're here all through the week, 4 to 6. Hail Varsity Roadshow. We'll dive into some thoughts from Bill Bender, potentially. Also, we need to talk about Chubba Purdy and some thoughts from Coach Rhule. We'll head back that direction. More comments from Coach Rhule on his quarterback situation. Injury's been on our mind today with how thin the wideouts are, at least who was and wasn't at the practice today. But just some names to think about that played here in Omaha and on the Corn Ferry. Jordan Spieth, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, Cantley, DeChambeau. Pretty big wow list right there. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity rolls forward. On location, Pinnacle Bank Championship practice round today. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, as we are here set up on the 17th next to the Hurrdat Sports Pavilion, next to the Patron Zone. So check things out, PinnacleBankChampionship.com. Get your tickets to the event for Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. It is just an incredible event here in Omaha. As also you have fall camp or summer camp turning into fall very shortly. 3 weeks from tomorrow, it is Gooferville, where Nebraska gets set to go. We spent a lot of time hearing from Coach Rhule and talking about just how thin the wideouts were. Mitch Sherman joined us earlier. Tim Brando, big time to talk to one of Fox's main men. And, also Matt Rhule and some of his comments earlier from the docu-series that's ongoing with Nebraska football, A Look In. So cool to hear from Coach Rhule right there. 489-1240, 489-1240. You can also email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. Todd emailed in again. I think he liked the Tim Brando interview, is how I will decipher that. So it
didn't need much deciphering. It needed a little bit of censoring.
Yeah, thank you. Censoring is the way to put it. So, guys, we talk about backups and depth and injury, and we hear Coach McBride dive into it. And what gets you excited about quarterback play when you think of Nebraska football? You think of a guy making a big-time throw off of play action. I think you think of a guy able to dance and dodge for extra yards, or just have elite athleticism and speed to turn a good play or a big play into a scoring play. Mm-hmm. When Nebraska's had difference makers at quarterback or the above average, Nebraska's really not had game managers, or they've not asked game managers to manage very often, sometimes to their detriment. But Nebraska has we think, a good quarterback in Sims, part of the Davey O'Brien watch list, the top 35 quarterbacks in the country heading into this season. He made that cut, and you like what Sims can do with his arms and his legs and his leadership qualities. But, dudes, as soon as Nebraska lost Casey Thompson a year ago. What happened? It went downhill. Nebraska was good for a touchdown, maybe a field goal, and then the offensive water flow was shut off.
Well,
Think of the Minnesota game.
As soon as that script ended from Whipple. Whipple, to his credit, and I think you can say the same about Frost during his time at Nebraska, they had great opening game scripts for the most part. They got down the field against Minnesota, but then what can you do once the defense already knows what you want to do with your offense? And with what the offense was, it was going to be a lot of quarterback run. Well, a lot of quarterback run, but a lot of rushing attack that emphasized the quarterback run just a little bit more. And then you know what? We're going to drop Chubba Purdy back and give him a one-read route. You know what? You get this one read. If it's not there, go take off with your leg. It did not lend itself to being the most efficient offense. And I think that's a great question because we've laid out on this show before. It's been a long time since Nebraska's had a quarterback make it through the entire season without going down with an injury. You can expect, I would say, at one point this year that either Chubba Purdy or Heinrich Haarberg is going to be behind center for Nebraska this year. I'm not ready to anoint Chubba as the backup. I don't think the coaching staff is yet either. I think that competition's pretty open at this point. But whenever one of those guys is going to have to step up, whether it's for a drive, whether it's for a game, whether it's for a quarter, it's going to happen at some point this season. Are you going to be able to have an offense that brings the strengths of that quarterback to the forefront no matter who your opponent is? You just have to be ready with that in your back pocket because one thing we know about the Big Ten and one thing we know about having a running quarterback is they're going to deal with some hits and they're going to go down and they're probably not going to make it through every single snap you're going to play this season. What are you going to do whenever that happens?
Connor and Elijah, I mean, there was a legit oh no. And this is not to pile on a kid. It's you just didn't have a lot of confidence. And quite frankly, the offense didn't have a lot of confidence, and his coaching staff didn't put a lot of confidence in Chubba, or at least didn't do a good enough job of A, asking him to do some things he could do well, and B, maybe getting him as ready as he could have been or should have been. We don't know how many reps he got as part of the game plan. We know that things looked okay, and then they didn't against Minnesota. Connor, it's Nebraska's job to have a second or third team or fourth team guy ready if Sims, who has an injury history, can't go. Can Nebraska have minimal drop-off, be effective, at least get points out of their offense and not hang their defense out to dry? And it sounds like there's been some nice progress by Chubba this summer, and then obviously into the fall camp.
Well, I think you're exactly right. Based on last year when Thompson went down, Nebraska was maybe good for 10 points, maybe 14 on a good day. So the fact that you didn't really have that confidence behind him cost you big time, right? So you really need to establish that confidence behind the starter this year, Jeff Sims. And, you know, what is Heinrich Haarberg going to look like? What's Chubba Purdy going to look like if their number is called? And I kind of agree with Elijah. I mean, you could probably expect at one point or another, just because of football being football, that one of those two will see the field at some point in time. So it's really important for those two to get developed. We heard Coach Rhule talk about Chubba specifically and his development, which is always a promising sign. So hopefully, and he's a longer tenured guy now just in college football. So you hope that he can take that next step coming into his next year of his college career.
And I think a more important question maybe than how much development have these guys made, and it might sound crazy, but how much development has your rushing attack made? The rushing attack is a quarterback's, especially a backup quarterback's, best friend. Are you able to run the ball when the defense knows you're going to run the ball? Hey, we have a backup quarterback in here. It's the third quarter. We're nursing a 3-point lead here. You know the offense is going to be running the football on 1st and 10. Are you able to go pick up 3-4 yards and make it second and manageable for your quarterback, where then the defense doesn't know what to expect on second down? Maybe it's going to be that RPO. Maybe you're going to just hand it off to your running back yet again and try to make it 3rd and 2. If you can run the ball when the defense knows you're going to be running the football and still pick up yardage, that is a backup quarterback's best friends. It's so much easier for a guy like Chubba Purdy or Heinrich Haarberg to step up and make a throw on 3rd and 2 whenever the entire field is open, as opposed to 3rd and 10 whenever the defense knows, hey, anything underneath we can let happen and we can rally to the ball.
Well, think about the game last year against Minnesota, right? Nebraska's in the throes of a losing streak. Casey's dinged from the Illinois game that first half. Chubba comes in, and what happened? Well, Nebraska was playing their backup quarterback, 10 points and done. Minnesota scored 20 straight to finish that game. Second half. And I think it was tied 10-10 going in.
With their backup
quarterback. That's where I was getting to. And I can't pronounce the kid's name.
Kaliakmanis.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Captain Morgan gets knocked out. Kaliakmanis comes in.
Well done.
Nice. And I surprised myself. I'm going to give myself a helmet sticker for that. And he comes in and he finds a tight end a couple of times. They throw deep because guess what? His intermediate accuracy is trying to aim for the middle when you're seeing 3. And they leaned on Mo. Case in point. Guess what? Minnesota saves the day with their backup quarterback, their offensive line, and their run game on the road in a November game. And you're sick about it because of who the head coach is, but damn, he got his guy ready.
And he had a game plan ready to go when Tanner Morgan got hurt. You know what? We're going to use the more quarterback run. We're going to take the deep shots with that play action as he kind of laid out. That's what really impressed me about that, and that's the moment when I went, man, what's Nebraska doing here? What's
the plan? We'll wrap up here, hour 2 coming up.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here from the club at Indian Creek. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. The Pinnacle Bank Championship practice round today. Tournament commences Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're here the rest of the week. PinnacleBankChampionship.com. Log on. Get your passes today. And bring the family, bring the girlfriend. Sneak out of work, bring a client, whatever you need to do. It's going to be great weather, and you're going to see some stars of the golf world before they make that jump to the PGA. So we were talking Chubba Purdy and Nebraska having a plan for backup success. Tim chimes in. I'll say it again. Chubba showed me a lot of want-to character right before he got hurt. I think he's going to have a surprise year. I think he's going to surprise us this year. Thanks for the input, Tim. Let's hear from Rhule real quick on some of Chubba's progress.
You know, John Wooden used to say, be quick but don't hurry. And sometimes when Chubba would play in the spring, he was like really quick and fast and jumpy and trying to be perfect. Every play a lot of times quarterbacks, every play they're trying to show how good they are instead of just playing the play. And to me, Chubba's just like slowed down. His feet aren't antsy. He's not kind of running around. He's not trying to do too much. He's taking what they give you, and I just like the way he leads his group. You know, they follow him. So he has all the physical tools, but just kind of letting it all settle down and come together. It's not easy, especially when you're not behind the first offensive line. But Chubba's excelled.
Last thought on Chubba, I think a little bit more specifically on how it's kind of come together for him.
I think that was the cut about
that was the whole enchilada.
Yes.
I thought there was 2. My fault. Okay, so you got all of Rhule on Chubba. That's a win.
That is a win.
That's pretty good. Vic in Denver chimes in, and we kick things off since we're golf bound today and the rest of the week, and it's awesome. We had some confessions on the golf course, moments we're not proud of, clubs that may have learned how to swim or not. Vic is like, look, never broke clubs or carts, but when I was Elijah's age, I had a buddy that lived on the Knolls. Loved the Knolls. Should have golfed more at the Knolls.
R.I.P. the Knolls.
Yeah, I hopped his 6-foot fence with my bag strapped to my shoulder. 33 years later, I still have to go to the chiropractor to fix it every month or so.
Oh.
So, Vic, that's the gift that keeps on giving, brother.
No, I'm
laughing with you, Vic.
I'm confused. Is that?
We'll see you in Boulder.
Was that an attempt to break onto the golf course?
I don't know. He didn't specify. He just hopped the fence.
Save yourself a couple of bucks.
I mean, who's hopping a fence if you're not breaking in? Like, that seems.
Don't you just find a buddy that lives on the course and kind of walk out his back door in the backyard? Kind of sneak your way on there. I was the fat kid eating all the ice cream for. Mom and Dad would have this punch card every month. It was supposed to last us a month, and I don't know if it was my dad and the Miller Lite or me and the ice cream, but those were some bad weekends. This punch card's already gone. Dad had 40 Miller Lights. Well, yeah, fatty, you had 14 ice cream cones. We're even. So, yeah, that's how it happened.
I'd like to. My buddy Ryan, back in high school, his parents had a membership to one of the country clubs in Lincoln. I'll just say that. not the, but one of the. I guess that really narrows it down. Anyway, I'll just say that they had a tab that you had to know the PIN number to, and we knew the PIN number. And, we had some Saturday afternoons out at the golf course back in high school, just ordering food and drinks all afternoon as fat offensive linemen do.
That's the best thing to do is just put it on Bolte's tab. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow here from Pinnacle Bank.